Welcome back everyone. In this lesson we are going to expand on the videos and tracing lesson that we had previously. So I guess all of you might have saw that at this moment we are storing videos and traces even if your test is successful or failed. So regardless of the outcome of the test, we are storing the videos and traces for a specific test. Now, this might be an issue if you have a lot of tests and most of them hopefully are successful. You will store files for each of them. Now, ideally, you will only store those files for tests that are failing in order to help you to investigate and debug your tests. So the ideal scenario will be to only store them if your tests are failing. Okay, how do we do this? Well, unfortunately, in the Java bindings library for Playwright, you don't have the ability to specify to only store traces and videos if your test is failing. In the Node.js version of Playwright, you do have this ability. You can specify a parameter and it will only store them if they fail. Fortunately, we have a way around that. We can use something called TestWatchers. So TestWatchers, they come from JUnit and they provide an API that you can use, and it basically acts like hooks for getting the status of an individual test, and then you can have certain actions depending on the outcome of the test. So you can have a hook for test failed, test successful, and you can implement your custom logic in there. So how do we do this? Well, we need to create a new class and we need to implement the TestWatcher API. So I'm going to create a new class. I will call it TestWatcher extension. Okay, and I'm going to implement the TestWatcher library. So I implement TestWatcher. So this is provided by JUnit 5. Now, if you navigate to this class, you will see that TestWatcher provides a series of default methods that we can override for test disabled, test successful, aborted, and failed. Now, we want to still store our files if our test is failed or aborted or aborted, but if our test is successful, we want to delete them. So how do we do this? We are going to override this method. Let me copy the signature of this, and I'm going to override this method and provide a different implementation. Now I need to make this public, and I will also specify the override annotation. Now, once I have this, I can now write my custom logic over here. Okay, so I'm going to create a method specifically for traces. I'm going to make this private, and I'm going to call this delete traces. And I'm also going to pass this extension context. So this context will allow us to gather some information about our tests, like the display name, configuration parameter, and stuff like that. Okay. If we go to our Playwright runner and check how we are saving our traces, we can see over here that we are storing the traces as a trace.zip file. Now, if we have multiple tests, this won't work because it will overwrite the zip for each test. So we can do something about this and change the name of our traces for each test that we have. How do we do this? Well, we need to pass something to our tests. So in the tear down method, we can specify something called test info, and using this we can infer the name of our test. And over here where we are saving our traces, I'm going to do something like so. I'm going to save them in a different folder. Let's call this traces. And after this, I'm going to append to this the name of the test, and I'm going to do that by using display name. And the display name actually will also include the open and close parentheses, so I will want to remove that. So I'm going to replace the parentheses with an empty string, and I also want to add the extension at the end, which is .zip. Okay, so let's give this a try and see what it does. I'm going to run the sign in existing user test and see what happens. So my expectation is that the traces will now be stored in the traces folder, and I will have the name of my test, which is sign in existing user, and the trace will be stored as sign in existing user.zip, and that will be my trace file. Now for videos are already stored with unique names, so we don't need to do anything about that. Okay. It's almost finished and done. Perfect. And let's check over here that it has created our traces folder, and now we have the trace file for the specific test saved with the name of the test, and it also has the .zip extension. Perfect. And we also have the video stored. Now let's go back to our TestWatcher extension. Now so far we've only declared this hook for test successful, but we are not actually doing anything at this point. So what I want to do here is try to delete the trace for sign in existing user only if the test was successful. So how do we do this? I'm going to try to fetch the file path.get. I'm going to search in the traces folder, and basically I'm going to just copy, it's actually paths, not path. Let me import this. I'm going to fetch the expression from here because this is the same. So this will give me the name, actually the path, the relative path to my traces file. And I also need the test info, but I don't have it here, but I can use the context, and it has the same get display name, which will return the same value. Perfect. Let me store this trace path. Okay, so now we have the path, and we also have an error. Let me see this. So paths, I had too many. Okay. Now that I have the path, I would want to delete it. The reason why I'm deleting this here is because my test is successful. So this will only be triggered if the test is successful. Then what I will do, remember the trace file will already be saved at this point. So what I will need to do is get the path, and then I will try to delete it. I'm going to use files, delete, and I'm going to pass the trace path. Actually, let's use delete if exists. And this also will throw an error. Let's surround this with a try catch. And here what I'm going to do is log a warning. Failed to delete trace file with name. And to get the name, I'm going to use the trace path get file name. Okay, this seems fine. And this should work. Actually, I should have implemented this logic in the delete traces method and called the delete traces method over here and pass the context. Perfect. Because we will write a new method over here for delete videos. Now, as you can see, this TestWatcher extension is not actually used at this moment. So what we need to do, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to my Playwright runner, and I'm going to use an annotation called extend with, and here I'm going to pass the TestWatcher class. And now it will know about it, and it will actually trigger this hook. So let's place a breakpoint in delete traces method to see that this is actually triggered, the hook for test successful. And what I'm also going to do, I'm going to delete the previous file and the video also. And let us debug our test. So first, what will happen? It will continue the normal flow. So it will start the browser. It will try to do the logic in the test. And if everything works fine, if the test is successful, I should trigger that hook, and we should stop in a breakpoint, in the breakpoint I just placed over there. So the test finished, it was successful. It has stored the trace file over here. It has triggered the hook over here. And now it's going to execute my delete traces method. Okay. So what will happen if I let it run from here? It will delete this file over here. So because my test was successful, it will delete the zip file as I would not need it for debug. And as you can see, this works fine. And the trace file has been deleted. Perfect. Now let's try to do the same for videos. Now, for videos, this is a little bit, it is a special case, because what will happen is if you have like pop-ups in your test where you have multiple frames, it will generate separate videos for each of your pop-up or tab. So you might have more than one files over here. And also the names are generated with a unique string, unique hash. Now, how do we get around this? Well, we need to store the names of all the videos that are in our videos folder before we start the test, and we need to assess after that what are the new video files that were created and only delete those files. So in order to do that, we need to use a different callback, and this callback is called before each callback, and you can see that it already asks me to implement the before each method. I'm going to move this up top right over here, and we now need to write our custom logic over here and store our video files. So let me declare a variable over here. Let's call it list. So I'm going to have a list of paths and call it list of video files, and I'm going to initialize this with an empty array list. Let me also import the list class. Okay, and what I will do here, I'm going to initialize this list of video files with all the files that are present in the video folder right here over here. Right now we only have one file. So let's do this. I'm going to use files. I'm going to use walk so I can iterate through them. Paths, get, going to pass the path for the videos folder, which is video. And what I want to do here is I'm going to iterate. Actually, I'm going to filter. I want to filter so I only have actual regular files. Is regular file, okay. And then I want to collect all the results in a list. Perfect. And now that I have all these video files stored, I'm going to implement a new method. I will call it delete videos. This method, I don't believe it needs the context. Let's write the implementation for it. And what I will do here is I'm going to iterate again through all the files. So let's declare a new list. Again, a list of paths. Let's call it new videos. Let's use the same approach and iterate through all the videos. So right now I should have more than the videos that were previously there. The path is videos. Okay. Again, let's filter for regular files. Okay. And actually, let's filter again now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to filter, and I'm going to only keep the files that are new, so files that are not present in my original list of video files. So I'm going to check if the list of videos that I stored before my test started, if it contains this new video. So I'm only going to store them if it does not contain this new video. So I'm going to check, is my new video, is the video I'm currently checking, is it present in the list of video, list of video files? If not, I'm going to store it in a collection. Perfect. And this actually throws an error. And let's log an error over here. Let's say failed to delete videos, error message was, and let's get the error message. Okay, this looks fine. So now I have this new this list of new videos, and because this was triggered, I'm going to trigger this on the test successful hook. I want to delete them. I want to delete the new videos and only store the existing videos, which supposedly were stored if the test has failed. So I'm going to iterate from my list. Let's use a for each for this. And I'm going to delete each of the files. Files, delete if it exists, and I'm going to pass the path. So what this will do, it will delete all the videos, all the new videos, the videos that were created as an effect of running that test. Okay, so let's give it another try. I'm going to again put a breakpoint over here. And you can see we already have a video over here, right? So what will happen is when my test will stop in this breakpoint, I should have, if my test will pass, I should have a new trace video over here and a new video over here. So 2 videos here and 1 trace file here. And after this finishes, I should only have a video file over here because this will be kept, but the new one will be deleted. And the trace file that will be generated will be deleted. So let's try this out. And let's see if it works. So something went wrong. Okay, I used the wrong path over here. So in the before each, it couldn't read the files from this path because it was incorrect. Let me try this again. And again, it's videos. Yeah, here is correct. Okay, so the test is now starting. Okay. So it should stop me in my breakpoint right about now. So now the test was successful. And now you can see over here we have a new trace file generated with the name of the test. And we have an additional video file stored for this test. And now because I have implemented this custom logic to delete them if the test is successful, let's do them one by one. So first one, it will delete the trace. IntelliJ doesn't want to cooperate. Okay, it didn't refresh. But as you can see, the trace file was deleted and we only have the previous video file here. So again, the custom logic I've did over here is to store all the previous video files that were in the video folder before you started your test. Because supposedly if you have many tests, some of them will fail and you still want to keep the video files for those failed tests. Now, for the traces part, since I'm using the name of the test, I can simply just go and delete that one if my test was successful. Okay everyone, this was all for this lesson. See you guys in the